Good evening and welcome to the Arts Commission meeting of February 10th. We are officially called to order. Andrew, do you have any legislative updates?
I do not tonight.
Well, that was quick. So the next on the agenda is the minutes, which Josh sent out like months ago. Very complete. Any comments from you, Josh? You want to start that off?
I hope you read every word, and if you didn't, you're going to be tested.
I did.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I thought I didn't have any issues with them. It was a lot of detail to work through, though.
Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as read?
So moved.
I second it.
Kelly? It's been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes from January 13th. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. So the minutes will be forwarded to Patty Whitmer. Next on our agenda is our election of officers. Drum roll. Da, da, da. So excitement abounding. I would first like to, I did put the slate on your agenda, so it's right in front of you. I just wanted to comment on the fact that Chelsea is running for chair. It's not because I don't love you anymore. And I will be on the commission and doing as much as I possibly can to be of help. So I just wanted to include a couple of comments. One, that I feel that Chelsea is extremely qualified with the background in arts administration and really can bring some things to the table. Secondly, I think change of leadership, not constantly, but is good for an organization. It gives you different outlooks. It moves you forward. And so I felt that was an aspect too. And I'll be going off at the end of this 2-year term that's just starting. I want to thank all of you for being amazing commissioners. I really think everybody has brought something or a lot to the table in terms of energy, ideas, projects, and it's really given us a chance to grow, get a little better organized, and I'm sure that'll be even better as we move forward. So with that being said, I would like to ask if there are any nominations that anyone would like to bring forward to add to the slate. Okay, so what we can do is move to accept the entire slate as stated, and we'll be finished with this spit spot. So do I have such a motion? Scott? Yeah. And Kelly, the second from Kelly. All those in favor signify by either an eye or a hand.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Congratulations to Chelsea, Beth, and Josh. officers for the next year. And Chelsea and I have talked several times, and I know it's going to be good. So I'm excited to move forward. And with that, I turn the meeting over to her. And one thing you'll see less of is me talking at these meetings. So Chelsea, you're on.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you for your years of leadership. I mean, it has been a great experience being on this commission and then being a part of it years prior to that. And so I really appreciate everything that you've done. I also really appreciate that you have a lot of faith in me, and I really hope that I don't screw it up as much as I think I'm going to. So I appreciate that you're going to be around to help me out. So let's keep on going, and congratulations to Beth and to Josh. I'm looking forward to working with you guys a little bit more closely. It's been a pleasure even the past month just getting to talk to both of you a little bit more. So let's move on to ongoing projects. It looks like Beth is up next with the community center mural.
Yes, indeed. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Okay. So we continue to meet, we being the area art teachers. Myself, Keith Wild, has been at every meeting, just sort of giving us, it's very helpful because as we think one thing, he might say, you know, you should consider this just based on my experience. So we're quite fortunate to have him advising us. I also had the opportunity to get a little deeper into some of the logistics, and I met with Andrew, and we actually looked at the space to ensure that what everybody was thinking we could do could be done. And it seems that Andrew feels pretty confident that we can do this the way we hoped, which is with this aluminum panel. I should say that I did get some sample panel from a local business here, Precision Signs, and it's nice because it's not solid aluminum, which is actually pretty heavy. This aluminum is thin aluminum on two sides, and then the core is plastic. Mike, so it's easier to manage, basically. So we've got some good pricing on that. And then we had to look into, in the last meeting, I mentioned us working with polytab or this mural cloth. So I've made some progress in that regard as well that I feel pretty good about. There's a place called muralprovisions.com, and they're based like in Philadelphia. And this is what they do. This is their business, is assisting muralists around the country with this technique, which seems to be a pretty popular technique. So that's good, but we're still struggling a bit with the design, and that in a way it shouldn't be surprising, right? Because it is a design by committee. With the only thing that we had to go on was that the theme, the overarching theme, is unity. And I think I mentioned before, you know, we ruled out a variety of ways to approach it. With student designs, because it then becomes, then how do we select one? Or if we have multiple, then who's going to be the artist that takes and incorporates multiple designs into one mural? So we've really headed down the path of the mural that it will have the word unity on it. Now, there has been some discussion about that, and there was another idea or two. A couple of people had suggested the word community, with the word unity sort of popping out. And there, I sent you all a link to Padlet. I sent that, as I mentioned, because I didn't want to put it out there publicly, but I'm hoping you had the opportunity to take a peek at some of the things that are on Padlet to see some of the designs and ideas that some of the teachers have presented. So we're getting down to, we're getting down to the wire. I guess that's the word I'm looking for here a bit, because we have to be able to get the product ordered. And by product, I mean the mural cloth and the paint, get it cut up and get it distributed so that their students can start their work and get it completed before the end of the year. Now, to be clear, and in case there's, I haven't said this before, the idea with the mural cloth is that it is essentially, they are, you would have a complete mural, right, or a complete panel, but that panel would be cut into grid-like pieces. And essentially, it's sort of a paint by numbers in that you might set it up like, Keith uses the term like a battleship grid. You know, you've got row A, spot 4 is going to be this color. But on that piece, the students will get to use that color, but then they get to create an image that it means unity to them, that inspires them to think of unity or community. So it's going to be really cool up close, right? Because you're going to see the artwork of potentially up to, I'm finalizing the numbers, but it looks like it'll be probably 120, 140 kids, individual pieces of art on there. But our big challenges right now are color palette and how we're going to superimpose the word unity or community on that mural with that color palette. So I'll pause for a moment to see if people have some questions. I know I'm talking with my hands, but if you've been able to look at the Padlet, I think it would be, and I don't think screen sharing is an option here in these meetings like this. So if you're able to look at the Padlet, I think you'll get a better idea, Padlet, excuse me, of what it is that we're talking about. If there are some particular thoughts that you have, I would love to hear them, because of course we've never, at least not that I can recall, embarked on a public art piece quite like this. So I would love for some thoughts and feedback.
Thoughts and feedback.
Yes.
Go for it, Carol.
I was really impressed with the project from, Charlotte, West Virginia.
Oh, Charleston, yeah.
And so the collaboration there and having all these different schools and the individual kids involved, to me, the process is as beautiful as the mural will be. And so I just applaud that and am excited to see it come to fruition. And I enjoyed looking at the different schools, where they are in their brainstorming to get it put together. So I think you're on the right track. I understand everything always sneaks up on us faster than we think it's going to. And we're always in a hurry to finish, but I applaud both of those things, the collaboration and the concepts. So bravo.
Well, thank you.
Ooh.
Hey, I just learned I can share my screen.
Oh, yes, you can. How about that?
So, and that helps, I think, a little bit. And this is the one that you were talking about. I think if I click on it, I'm not sure if it's still. Do you see me go to the ACLU page where it is? Okay, wasn't sure of that. So, and when I make it bigger. I mean, so this is the idea of what we're going to do, right? And in this case, though, this is a much smaller mural. These pieces are about 4 inches by 6 inches. And so each participant got one of these, and he essentially did say, okay, like most people had multiple colors. This would be one of the rare examples where they only had one color to work with in there. But here, for example, he would have had this line sort of sketched out there and said, on this side of the line, you've got to work with these colors, and on this side of the line, you've got to work with these colors. Do you know what I mean? So that's essentially what ours, because ours won't really be image based, it's going to be more text based. So ours, whatever the lettering looks like, that's where this could come into play, the multicolor thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me go back. Is this back on Padlet for you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this, to that point about unity versus community, this, I'm turning my head sideways. You probably have to too. This was a sketch that came to us, early on. But I was drawn to this personally because I liked how unity is a part of it, but it's, and she emphasized unity in community, but I kind of liked community for this project. I'm wondering if you all have any feelings about community versus unity in terms, since it will be so text-based, I guess.
So Beth, from my personal perspective, I really do think that community would be better and have the unity highlighted. That is kind of what it looks like Sam Campbell did. I think that saying something that's community is a little bit more, it emphasizes the fact that we are a community, and especially right now that we are all in this together. I mean, I hate to be that High School Musical person, but we are all in this together. And I think having the word community, and again, emphasizing the unity, since that is the overall theme, I think it would be much better personally.
Okay.
I agree completely.
Do you?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think community just gives it more depth.
Mm-hmm.
It includes the unity, but it has more meaning than just unity.
Yeah.
Hey, Beth, I don't know if you see the chat, but Brandon Thompson is an attendee, and he is asking, how did the committee arrive at those two words, community or unity?
Unity was the theme that was essentially given to us, right? So when we decided that we were going to take this on as an idea, a community member had brought the idea to us, and he wants to contribute by helping offset the cost of paint or whatever. And he said, my only request about the whole thing is that it somehow be about unity. So that's why it's there like that. I also think it's personally, I think it's apropos for the moment in time. But yeah, does that work for you, hopefully, Brandon? And then community was just, somebody was like, oh, well, what about, because we were originally, it was going to be an artistic, like, what does unity look like in our community, right? So now, because we recognize that there are so many struggles with that piece, it's more text-based. I'm going to see if I can get and see the chat here.
And I prefer community as well. I think it localizes it and emphasizes this theme of bringing together kids from all over the county to make one piece. And so it still has that idea of unity, but we're looking regionally, we're looking at ourselves. It's not this bigger, grandiose idea of unity. It's us. It's our community. It's our kids.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as color palette, I'm noticing a lot of these have a rainbow color palette.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are like other color palettes that could reflect the region, maybe more like earthy color palettes. Does anyone else have ideas about that?
Well, and definitely the red bricks of the streets of Athens and the clay industry of this area.
Yeah, that was, I don't think there's yet consensus on whether it should be squares or bricks. And yes, the bricks in large part for that reason, right? But then I was thinking, well, bricks totally will, ring true to Athens City Schools, to Nelsonville, but does it necessarily to Albany or Trimble or Fed Hawk?
Well, there are a lot of different brick companies in this region. I can't say, which ones they are, but they aren't only, they may not be in the streets of the communities, the other towns in the region, but it definitely was an industry of Athens County in general.
I think, let me just interject, if you concentrate on a particular product or brand, you're sort of excluding all others, which kind of ticks some people off now and then, like why them and not us, that sort of thing. So I think the more we generalize it, the better it'll be overall.
So in your mind, do bricks generalize it or do bricks make it more narrow?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And one of the arguments for the squares was, and actually if you look, let's see, was it Jessica's sheets here? Oh yeah, hers here. It was sort of this idea of quilt squares, and then there were some suggestions of Jim Dine. Now, not too many of the students are probably going to know about Jim Dine, but with, the hearts being a nod to Jim Dine. People did like bricks. That I feel like we just kind of have to, part of that will be dictated by the actual number of students for whom we're creating bricks or pieces. Do you know what I mean? To see which will sort of fit better. Will it be the rectangles or the squares? One of the things that, go ahead. Somebody else.
I was going to say, so I don't know if you're looking at the chat, but Leslie Schaller is saying connecting to the Essence of Athens palette. So you might want to touch base with Paul Logue to see if that's an option.
I thought about that. And then I was looking for my book and couldn't quite find it because I do have one of those books. I know I have it here somewhere. That was very city focused, though.
It was, yeah.
But yes, that's a good idea.
And my other thought is, it's been a while since I've seen the location. I can't remember, is that building, I know it's whitewashed, but is it brick building or is it the block?
Cinder block.
The cinder blocks. Because I don't know. People might think it's a little weird that it's like a brick pattern on a cinder block building.
Yeah. Andrew, it's cinder block, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cinder block, but it's painted white. I don't know that the block itself is noticeable in any measurable way.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And
We'll incorporate a couple of these ideas, have quilt squares and bricks and whatever, stripes or and different parts of it, and have more variety in it.
Well, and certainly, that can be represented in the, and may end up being represented, right, by what the students contribute. I also wonder, I feel like if the teachers, we talked about, like, if we don't quite have enough students or whatever for the shape or design, that they could just paint pieces in, a color, right? That fits in that place. Do you have, I would like to invite them to paint something as well, something, what it means to them versus just painting a color. Do you see any problem with that? Me inviting them to do that?
No, I don't.
I know. Okay.
Now, are you having any input in the decision-making process?
Well, I believe that I am, and it's possible that they will tell you that absolutely I am because I'm running the meetings. But I'm really trying to facilitate, and I'm trying to let them sort of hash things out. And Keith certainly chimes in periodically, but again, his chiming in it's not opinion so much as it is like, you should be mindful of this based on my experience kind of thing. So it's super helpful. It occurs to me though, that probably like when it comes down to it, if we're going to have to vote, right, on the final palette and the final lettering and so forth. So it seems to me I should probably have a vote in it. And I know that typically commissioners don't exactly, but this is not a typical thing, right? Because it's not an RFP.
Yeah.
So does anybody have concerns about that?
Whatever works.
Okay. 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 Well, I appreciate your feedback. I will take that back to them. It does seem pretty overwhelming in terms of your feeling about the word community versus just unity. And I like the suggestions about looking to a color palette based on some colors that sort of represent the region or from the essence of Athens. Those are great suggestions as well. If you have other suggestions or color palette ideas, honestly, please send them to me and then I can put them up on Padlet because, this is, like I said, it's getting down to the wire sort of. We've got a few more weeks, but I think by and large, the teachers will really want to get it started. I guess by mid-March at the very latest, that's when the fourth quarter begins for everybody around here.
Do you guys have any idea what the turnaround time of getting that mural cloth printed is going to be?
Like a week.
Oh, nice.
I know. I couldn't believe it. It's pretty darn quick. So
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So once we decide, it comes FedEx.
Okay. Can you describe this cloth? So a kid will paint the cloth and then it'll be attached to the aluminum panel.
You got it. You got it. So when I go back here and look at Keith's, that's exactly what he did with a mural cloth, or he called it polytab. But this, you can see these are bricks, right? So this isn't huge. It's probably 6 feet by something. So what he did was he laid out his polytab, then he projected his image on there to do the outline and everything. Then he created a grid, and on the back of the grid, he assigned pieces. So, you've got this is A1, A2, A3, and so forth. Cut them out, and then distributed these individual pieces to the artists in the community. Okay. And it would say, you've got A1, and here's the paint that you have to work with for A1.
Okay.
And if he was over here saying C3, he would have said, you have to use, because the line would have been there for that mountain top, right? So he would have said, use this color on this half of the line and these colors on this half of the line, but you can make what you want. So like you see in this one, that one is, they've got a word there. It looks like pogrom. But yet they had to get that white corner in there.
I see. Okay, yeah. So how is this attached? It's glued on, apparently, and then
Keith says you just put it on with paint without pigment.
Oh,
yep.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. Huh.
Yep. And they prime the material actually also at Mural Provisions.
And then they cover the whole thing with like a clear coat or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if we'll just put another coat of, clear house paint on it. In other words, house paint without pigment, but probably that's what we do.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool. Really cool.
Now, if you actually Google like polytab murals or mural cloth or something, you're going to see this is being done more.
A lot of examples. Okay. Neat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth. This is really great. Very educating.
It is, yeah.
It's super exciting. It's painful too, just because I feel like it's hard in this stage, and I know they're all eager to make the art, but it's a good kind of pain. It'll be totally worth it in the end. No pain, no gain, right?
Right.
So.
And kudos to Keith.
Yes, we are incredibly lucky to
Indeed.
have him donate so much of his time to advise on this. As he says, he feels like he has a vested interest in it because, he's got artwork up around town. And
He sure does.
He wants all the art in town to look good, And so I have very much appreciated his input along the way.
Awesome. Now, is there anybody who didn't get a chance to speak about this, want to say anything before we move on to the next item?
I just want to say, Beth, I think, it's okay that if you become kind of a creative director for this project, because I think, with so many people contributing, it does need some creative direction.
That's helpful. Thanks for that. I think it's, like I said, I feel like I'm walking in a slightly funny place, particularly because it's visual art, and that's not an area of my expertise. So, and the role as a commissioner. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Beth. We are going to move on now. Let's see. So the Friends of the Arts West discussion, just a second, sorry, things. Okay, so Friends of Arts West discussion, we are going to limit this to about 20 minutes or so, just so we're cognizant of our time. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I know that there are a few attendees who will probably want to speak, but just to kind of give you guys an update, so Brandon, Leslie, and I did meet with Terry and Andrew and Alan Swank, who is now the new chair of the APRD board. We met with them yesterday morning. We had a really nice discussion. It was a little long, but that's okay. There were a lot of good things that came out of it, I think. We're not really in the action stage at this point. We're still trying to figure out what exactly we want to do. But we did kind of agree on a couple things that we want to make sure that we keep racial equity at the forefront of whatever we do. And then we also want to make sure that there is a financial aspect, because the conversation went to the fact that the pandemic hopefully is, waning, and there could be a lot of grant opportunities coming up, that if we had some sort of 501c3 set up, that they would be at least applicable or be able to apply for certain grants. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. If anybody has any questions or if anybody wants to speak, go for it. But I would say let's try to limit everybody's discussion time to about 2 to 3 minutes to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk. Anybody want to go first? Anybody in the attendee group? No? Andrew, did you want to talk about what you thought the meeting went, or how you thought it went?
Sure. I'm sitting in this chair and it feels like I'm being swallowed up. I apologize if I sink and disappear here. I thought that the discussion was lively, and I think that I had said in the meeting yesterday that to me, it feels like there's two different things that are being discussed consecutively and to be addressed in two different ways. So the first part obviously is Arts West itself and the long-term health of Arts West, the long-term vitality of, it being an anchor of the West Side. I think that was mentioned a couple of times, that it is an anchor of the West Side. Brandon may have said that term, and I like that. And the intent on the more narrow scope is, 501c3 that can help bring in funding that Arts West is not eligible for otherwise. And an example of that would be the round of CARES Act funding for arts organizations. Arts West was not a qualifier for any of that funding. Compare that to Stewart's Opera House, and I don't quote me exactly, but I think that they received a little over $130,000 in funding related to CARES Act, funds. And that's one example. But long term, we have seen, many times where there have been opportunities that Arts West has not been able to leverage because of its status as in the umbrella of a municipal organization. It also provides an outlet for people to get involved and engaged in a different way. And so that's on the narrow side. On the wider side is thinking more about the county and the region and how we're collectively, and by we, I mean arts organizations across the county, and we have many of them, how we can, collectively work all of that power together to leverage funding and resources and, ultimately bring people in to visit this area, to spend money here. If you recall Bob Winters, the Arts and Economic Prosperity study that was done, that was a big catalyst at that time. It's been several years. So we know some of that data, and I don't think that it's changed. I think that if anything, it's strengthened this area as far as, our need to invest in the arts and our need to use the arts as an economic engine. Especially, we all know the university has its struggles, and we've leaned on the university, since its inception in many ways, but diversifying what we do and how we do it and how we bring people in. As part of the conversation that I gathered, what I get excited about is the vibrancy piece, that Arts West can be a long-term, financial and community success, and also on the wider scale that we're utilizing all of the organizations that we have in Athens are doing great things to bring in additional funding and continue to do what they do best. So I think I hit most of the things that I discussed in a very, very short version. So I'll let other people speak.
Thanks, Andrew. So just to put a little bit of a bug in everybody's ear, I don't know if anybody's looked at the AMAC resources lately and the ordinance that established AMAC, but there is a bit in there that says, work with existing Athens area groups, Ohio University, and individuals to assess the opportunities available and assist in the coordination and marketing of arts programs. I know that AMAC has been doing a little bit of that, but I think it could be something that we try to help focus a little bit more on in the future. But that's just wanted to put that out there. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Want to discuss anything specific? Carol?
I did suggest to Patty Whitmer that she put a bug in Sam's ear that he call Scott and maybe talk a little bit more about the project that he came and talked to the commission about. Scott, you remember that? Sam Whitmer? You're muted. I can't hear a word you're saying.
Apologies, long day. Yeah, and Sam is actually adjunct faculty in the music program at Hocking Artwork. So I have reached out to him, but it's been I guess it was pretty much right after the last meeting. But yeah, just to follow up, and he's aware and he knows how to reach me as well. So I'll circle back with him on that.
Right, as we're sort of looking hopefully towards the future and more availability to activities, I think the timing is good to at least get things planned. So,
Sure.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question,
Sure.
and it's based on what you have here on the agenda. It says topics limited to the 501c3 versus the 501c6. Did you guys talk about that, or was that not really
There was
relevant yet?
There was some discussion about that, and Leslie, who is the nonprofit guru, is going to be sending out a bunch of information to the ad hoc committee, as well as just the groups that have been involved, just to kind of give us an idea of what the difference is and what would be best. I think based off the discussion on Tuesday, that I believe that we think that a 501c3 is best, just based on certain categories and things like that. Like the 501c3 will have more grant opportunities as an arts organization. But I could be wrong, because I am not the guru and I haven't been able to look into it a little bit. There is a note on there that says other municipalities that have models with such a plan as the original proposal. And I was having a hard time finding certain municipalities that actually provide not only a building. Leslie just said C3 probably is still the best option. So in the chat. But I was not able to find any municipalities that had not only the property, but also a staff member. But of course, that's really not going to be put into the online websites. Most of the stuff I was looking at was very minimal. I did find a handful of places like Dublin, for example. I mean, the Dublin Arts Center is owned by the city, but the Dublin Arts Council leases the property. There was also Panama City, Florida, is actually a city-owned building that the Bay Arts Alliance actually leases the property from the city. So there are models like that, but again, I haven't been able to find anything with the staff component. I was kind of hoping that Terry was able to come tonight because she had discussed a little bit of that. She also was having a hard time finding, that particular model. But, I was hoping that she would be able to do a little bit. Oh, it looks like Terry was having internet issues this evening. I can understand that one because I had a bunch of things that turned off and I was like, oh my gosh, is my internet going to go out? But anyway. So does anybody else have did anybody else look into models to see if there was any options? Anybody have time? I know it's been a crazy. Carol?
Well, Dublin is basically what we used as a model when Arts West was purchased. So we were pretty familiar with the Dublin at the time. There are a lot of changes in Dublin in terms of what's happened up there since then. And of course, that's where Tantrum was, and now Tantrum isn't there, it's back home. Obviously, there's no such thing as a perfect plan. My only comment about the 501(c)(3) is if we're going to do that, we need to really get on it quickly. If Leslie's going to design that and put it together, but you need bylaws and first it's got to go through the just the basic plan of being a 501c3. I can't remember the details of this, but after you're done with the first step, then you've got to go to the IRS and get approval for the not-for-profit part that allows people to take tax deductions and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this applies at all, but we have been trying to get a 501c3 for Rathacon, and we are able to operate as a 501c3 or as a nonprofit with the state of Ohio until we're able to get the IRS one. So if we get the state of Ohio one together, then we could operate, the Friends of Arts West could operate for a time while we're working on the rest of.
Right. I did one like 2 years ago, and the state part took a matter of weeks.
Yeah, it's real fast.
The IRS took forever.
Yeah, that's a slow process.
So
I noticed Brandon typed here in the chat, and that's actually, it was like right as I was thinking again, like I know it's meant to be Friends of Arts West. We've had a lot of discussions, though. What does that really mean? And we've had discussions about like protecting Arts West, the building itself. Mm-hmm. So I see he wrote that he sees the need to get something set up that aids the mission while exploring the bigger picture of where Arts West sits. And I assume, Brandon, if you could type in, I assume that what you mean is like that it aids the mission now, but then in terms of what it can do to aid the physical building and continuing the building, that's for later down the road. Is that, or I don't know if Brandon can answer that. Okay, yes. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up, Beth.
Yeah. So, it's still really that in some ways it's like, okay, well, do it, right? Get it started. But once you get that started, you still have to have people willing to be responsible for its nonprofitness, in terms of the government, right? And the taxes and things like that. So that's still the struggle. I think I brought it up last time.
Well, how much money do we have? Elsa.
Is there money? I don't know.
Is there money?
Didn't you say that we had some money?
Me? I haven't heard.
I'm hallucinating.
I haven't heard that we have money at all. I thought we had none.
Well, no, there is some money, but and it's one of those situations where if you don't spend it by the end of the year, so we should have spent it in November, blah, blah, blah. And because there wasn't a music festival last year, the money was left there.
I think Andrew is going to pop into that.
I can answer that. So there was money that was set aside for the Arts and Music Festival last year. But the way the city budget works, it doesn't roll over year to year.
Right.
So you build the kitty, that money goes back into the general fund. The same amount was allocated for 2021. And what we had written in was the intent being for the Arts and Music Festival. If that doesn't happen this year, certainly, it could be available to be used for other purposes. But the purpose, as was stated, was for the festival.
Well, I guess part of my question then is, would the city law office help with the legal details of setting up the 501c3? Maybe.
Well, I have a question. This is kind of an oddball one, but when we established the Athens Art Guild,
Mhm.
We actually took over the 501c3 that belonged to Quad A that had
Right.
been established years before. And that was like a real easy transfer. And I just wonder if there may be any 501c3s out there that have just been sitting that we might be able to acquire. I don't know if they're, I'm just throwing that out there in case there is something, because that was really simple for us to do.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Yeah, I know. So Leslie put in the chat that it would be nice to get some agenda time to do some quick snapshots of these models. And so I would recommend that we do that next meeting. I'll make sure and get that on the agenda. And she also says that IRS designation takes 6 months at least.
Right.
And just so everybody knows that we are meeting again with Terry, Andrew, and Alan, and whomever from the APRD board would like to meet with the ad hoc committee in a little under 2 weeks, so we can continue this conversation. I know we're getting up to the 20 minutes. Oh, no, we've got about 3 minutes. If anybody has any other suggestions, I see one new message. Leslie says ACE Networks helped Quad A and then the transfer. I can help with all this as part of the ad hoc. So Leslie, the nonprofit guru. Any other questions, suggestions, thoughts? Beth, you look like you're about to say something.
I was just noting, thank you. I was noting that Andrew posted the mission, which I appreciated. And clearly you guys have been looking at that. Would part of this be to revise that in any way, or are you using that as your inspiration for what it is that the Friends of Arts West will do, help make these things possible?
Go for it, Andrew.
I think my intent of posting that there was in response to Brandon's comment about if we're setting something up that we're aiding Arts West's mission. And it's been a while since I've looked at the mission for Arts West, and I don't know that it's changed much over the years at all. If that was part of the original mission, some of the original folks that helped with that, if that looks familiar to you, I would love to know, because when I read that, I read it as Arts West is meant to be a resource and a conduit for arts organizations, which it says individual artists and community residents. So what that looks like, could be a lot of things, but I really keyed into the making these facilities and resources, opportunities available to these different groups. And I recall for many years, Arts West was used as we had a lot of fledgling artists and small groups and small, I wouldn't even call them theater companies, that were utilizing Arts West because there wasn't a home for them anywhere else.
That's right.
I remember being very excited about helping to facilitate those types of opportunities, especially for the groups that really don't have a place to go that's not going to charge them a lot of money, that's going to provide an open outlet for them to explore something that maybe they aren't able to do on a larger scale, and to showcase what they're doing to the community where they might not have a studio space, they might not have an artist space that would be typical. So maybe we need to think about that a little deeper. about a mission and intent. We talked about that a little bit on Tuesday as well. What is the identity of Arts West? For many years it was, very strong in theater. For many years it was very strong in music and dance, and then we moved to visual arts more heavily. And I've got to shout out to Kelly, since she's on this, but her getting in contact with so many visual artists and facilitating the gallery shows for so many years, I think was part of the growth in that area. Then you get to the basement where there's all these other things happening too. But I can see where we've had some mission shift over the years, where we started to be a lot of things to a lot of different groups, but they might not have been as directly aligned with the mission itself. So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but I get kind of keyed up a little bit with let's get to the mission. I like that Brandon brought that up.
Well, FYI, Beverly had 3 theater-related things on the docket when the world ended. And those are all still just sitting and waiting. So we can get things going again. There'll be some theater going on.
That's awesome to hear, Carol. I wanted to make sure and talk about what's going on in the chat. It says, Leslie said it served as an arts incubator back in the day. And then Sherry added, the incubation program was really wonderful, but it's important for the facility to have enough continuous funding that Arts West can operate in a way that it can be fully open to the arts community and greater community. So I really appreciate that, because funding is really important. I will say that as the program specialist, and Kelly can maybe remember this, but we did try to rework the mission, years ago. And I think we kept it the same. We might have X'd out a word or something like that, but it was the same because we felt like it was, that's what we were doing and that's what we wanted to provide. I know that in the past couple of years, and even my last year or two, Arts West was doing a little bit more of its own programming instead of just being an accessible space to the community. So I think it would not be a bad idea to start looking at that mission and seeing if, work with Emily, work with Terry, and see if we can help them rework that. It's also one of my goals, long-term goals within AMAC, that I would like to have an AMAC mission, because I can't seem to find one anywhere. So something that we can really help. That way we can have a focus and a vision. So there's that. I know we're over the 20 minutes by about 4 minutes. Does anybody have any last things to say before we move on?
I have a quick comment. It sounds like most of us support going down this route to the 501c3, kind of the Friends of Arts West. So and it takes 6 months. So can we start on that now? I mean, what's the barrier, I guess, is my question.
That is a good question.
Maybe it's, getting people to write the application and putting the board together, or is it political stuff that we need to work out, or legal stuff? Because I'm hearing a lot of support, even from the mayor when he was at our last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like the 501c3 is the way to go for now. And, Arts West mission and role might change later on, as Brandon alluded to. Mm-hmm. But if we set up the support structure, this financial support structure, we'll have the leeway to do that later on, right? And work out the details later on.
That's something that I was wanting to look at because again, I'm not a nonprofit guru. I don't know the 501c3 model very well, but I'm wondering if we are able to start it out as that financial part, and then as things progress, can that designation change? I know it won't change from a 501c3, but are we able to add things later down the line as stability happens and things like that?
really the application is not that specific to begin with. So it's pretty loosey-goosey. You have to have a board and a mission statement. You don't have to have details of how it operates. Right, Kelly? Right, Leslie? Right, whoever?
Yes, that's exactly what I discovered filling out the application.
Brandon says correct.
The application's not hard. It just takes them a long time to send it back.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I want to make sure that Brandon gets heard before we move on. So Brandon says, in addition to arts and culture, there is no current home to ongoing equity work or groups in Athens currently. Mount Zion was using Arts West meeting spaces for work before the pandemic. It could incubate more work, and I wholeheartedly agree. We definitely need to keep that racial equity at the forefront of anything that we do in the future. But I am saying for now, I will take this all back to the ad hoc committee, and we will more than likely be meeting, if not this coming week, but in the next 2 weeks or so. Leslie says the ad hoc can draft examples you can react to. FYI. But I know that we are meeting again with Terry and Andrew and the rest of the APRD in 2 weeks. So that way we can also take this information to the APRD board to their Thursday meeting next week and get their take and feel. But I'm hoping we can start moving forward on this so that way we don't lose those financial opportunities. Okay? And if you
thank you, everybody who's working on this. This is fantastic. You guys are doing a great job.
Yes, thank you, Kelly, for saying that, because volunteer time is amazing, and I love it when people come together like this. It's great. So thank you to everybody who's been helping out on that, and hopefully we can get something good going and something that will help with the stability of Arts West and the arts in Athens. Okay, so moving on. So next we have some commission business. So I went through that AMAC policies document revisions. I think I only got information or a response back from Josh. But oh, and you, that's right. And so I've gone ahead and kind of gotten rid of the highlighted things that I did, and I limited the ability for people. It's just going to be viewable now instead of commentable and or editable. Is that a word? I don't know. And so I guess, does anybody have any discussion before? Does anybody have any discussion before we adopt the new public art policies document, or the revised?
The only thing I want to say is that we last talked about, figuring out where these responsibilities lie for looking after the city, the municipal artworks. And I want to mention that everybody that Andrew and Chelsea and I are going to be meeting to figure out how that's going to work, to come up with a list of all the artworks and then kind of delegate responsibilities and start to manage that. So we will probably bring that back to you all next month.
Thank you for that, Josh. Any other discussion?
Well, there were 5 different areas that had highlighted questions or places that had been changed. To me, most of it seems very straightforward. The question of the records and the art inventories, we just have to figure that out. I've decided it's not quite as complex as it sounded when we first talked about it. Another interesting thing to me was under 4.7, which refers to preparation of necessary signage for artwork in the city. And I don't think we've done that at all. And so that might be something we could add to proposals or to our process, that there should be some kind of identifying documentation for pieces that we have. The other things, I mean, like the communications, Patty is the key there. And then the other three things were the insurance, which I think we've got a handle on figuring that out. The loaning, people loaning their artwork. And I'm curious to know that things like the mobile in the entranceway to the city building that the mayor acquired, is that a loan? And if so, is there some kind of agreement on that? Is that just going to be there for a while? But anyway, those were the issues. I do not recall any loan of artwork to the city that we've dealt with. So that's why that's never been an issue, but we need to be aware that it could be.
Yeah, I would say that it has happened in the past. The city had an agreement with the Dairy Barn for Quilt National a few years ago.
Oh, right. Yes.
And we had an agreement, a legal document that we had to go through and sign related to responsibility. And if it got, those pieces got damaged, because I recall at least 2 or 3 that were on loan from the Dairy Barn to the city during that 9 months or whatever it was.
So I guess my thought is that things like that, it seems to me, ought to be in our document file as well as the city's general document file.
Right. I don't know. I think that brings up like the whole record keeping part, where
I know.
Well, that because I doubt that there's anything beyond that legal agreement that's, filed away somewhere in the basement of City Hall. So to have that on the ready and to share, the city has, hosted pieces over the years. And actually I walk by one every day, and I'm not sure where it came from, but underneath it says on loan. So I'm guessing it's on loan.
All right. Well, some of them were on loan from Lamborn's at one point, and now Lamborn's is dissolving, so that's not an issue. Anyway, yes, I would agree that one of our major problems is that we don't have records of specific art things that we really should. And so inventories, insurance, all of those little details we ought to have in our files, either electronically or hard copy or both. So I move that we accept the revisions of the public art policy.
Anybody second?
I second.
Oh,
We'll go for Scott. Okay, so we have moved to apply or to adopt the new revisions. Go ahead and mark that down and we'll move on then.
Oh, we got to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, new. I'm new. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Besides Beth? No. Nope. Okay, motion passed. Oh, Scott, were you gonna say
Yeah, I was just wondering. So in terms of some of these things, like the last thing we just spoke about, in terms of inventorying, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get that started? Let's do it. What do we do?
So,
I'm
Josh,
saying, like, what's the next step?
Yeah, so Josh, Andrew, and I are going to be meeting. We were supposed to meet this past week, but something came up. We're going to be actually meeting Monday of this coming week to start that process.
Oh, great.
Because, yeah, Josh already has a list of all of the AMAC artwork, and then Andrew has hopefully a list of all of the city-owned, and we're going to start collaborating and putting that all together.
Awesome. Okay.
And I'm going to go through 1,000 pieces of paper to see what I have upstairs that might be in a permanent file.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, for that question.
Sure.
Okay, so moving on to Key to the City. Kelly.
The Makerspace with Paul Patton at the Makerspace. And he seems to believe he can do it. Although I haven't heard from him since I sent the image of the key to him today. So I'm still waiting to hear back from him as to how he feels about it now that he's seen an image of it. They're going to use, we're hoping that we can work with Makerspace to use the 3D printer, which would be able to reproduce it with a plastic, but then we can paint it to look like metal. Mm-hmm. And I think you may have seen my email from earlier where I stated that I think it would be great if we can get this going with the Makerspace because it would be a nice collaboration between us and the Makerspace, which involves several nonprofits in the area. So I think it would be great if this works out. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern right now, waiting to hear back from Paul.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Anybody have any thoughts on everything or all of that? I think it's great. I love the idea of involving the Makerspace because I think they're a great resource that needs to be used more often.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff there that could be really advantageous to us and for us to connect artists with because they have quite a facility there.
Clarity, were you talking about that, the key, the image of the key that Andrew sent around today, replicating that rather than starting over from scratch? Okay.
Yes, the mayor would really like to see that be the key. So, yeah.
Nice. I like it.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's a nice piece. Does anybody know anything about the original artist? Yeah, I'd like to find that original artist so that that person can be given credit for creating the original. So
Might Paul Weil know?
maybe was it given to him initially?
I don't know, but if it wasn't, then he would say, no, it was a different mayor.
Yeah. Andrew, did you have something?
I think we're going late 70s, early 80s, and I think it may have been Judy Morgan.
Hey,
Oh, really? Oh, well, that would be wonderful too, because she's a beloved teacher.
So
Athens High School.
I'm wondering if I can find that out.
I'm not for sure.
I'll do some checking.
Okay. Thank you, Carol.
Andrew, did you have anything to add?
Anything to add?
There was some mismatch there.
Just just the Judy Morgan piece. I don't know that for a fact, but
I'll check.
I was going to share what the city key looked like, just so people out in video land could see it. And I know that most of you got a chance to see it. Hopefully this works.
Ta-da!
Yep.
That's the key. And the A, actually, I have a mug at Utilities Billing that has that design on it. It might be a little bit more clear to share with you if I get a chance to swipe it from them.
Oh, that'd be great. That might be helpful for the makerspace to have another image of it to
A better rendering.
yeah, exactly.
I had asked the Utilities Billing staff if they knew where that mug came from, and they said, "Oh, it's been here since we've been here." And the ones it's like, "Well, I started 15 years ago, and it's always been sitting in that corner. We've never really touched it." I think I may have called the person that retired from Utilities Billing. They had the same story, basically, of like, "Well, that mug's always been in the corner. We just we didn't know where it came from."
Wow, that's pretty funny.
Any last discussion on Key to the City? Very cool project. Looking forward to whatever comes out of it. Nope. Okay, moving on to, I see status of possibility of summer arts festival in the fall. Carol, do you have any light to shed on that?
Scott, do you have any light to shed on that?
Well, I never proposed that. I saw that in the agenda, which is fine. I spoke with Kelly. We're kind of in a holding pattern, and we're of course missing working together and working on the project and getting everything going. I think that some of the concerns, this is stuff that we talk about anyways, is yes, there has been money in the past that has been allocated by the city through AMEC to help support. But the majority of the operating costs for it actually come in from donations and sponsors, right? So part of the other concern is that, I don't know the best way to say this, but I don't feel super comfortable asking people while all this is going on to help support this that way. I don't think does that make sense? I want to be sensitive.
No.
I want to be sensitive to other folks, especially who have been hit by this. For example, all of the shuttered music venues that might support it. People who are significantly taking a loss that I wouldn't want to turn around and then go to them and say, "Hey, I know things are really horrible for you, but how about you help us again and create this thing?" So I'm just saying we are approaching delicately. We're hovering. We're kind of waiting to see what happens. Hopefully everything improves and we can do stuff. I realize there's a lot of pieces on the other side too, and we don't want to assume anything about budget support from the city either, really. Just with everything that's going on, we don't really know. So as far as moving it to the fall, we can kick it down the road and say something like that, but I don't know enough yet to say that I feel comfortable saying that's exactly what we're going to do. Does that make sense? Does that help? Yeah. What does anyone else think about that? Right now, that's kind of where we're at. We don't want to.
Well, I know for a fact that a lot of the visual artists that would be setting up are not willing to do anything until we have more vaccinations and
certainly,
so they aren't even vending at shows of any sort. So we might be at a deficit of participants.
Sure. So there's a lot of things to consider for a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I feel like nothing is definitive. Like we're talking about all these things and we don't get to the chase. I
found it interesting that Stewart's is going to try to start having live performances.
Mm-hmm.
So people are sticking their toes in the water, so to speak. So maybe what it's time for is for you and Kelly to have a brainstorming session about what are the pros, what are the cons? Are there people out there that are just absolutely flipping to do something?
Yeah, well, maybe we can reimagine it and turn it into something different.
Yeah,
It is outdoors. That helps.
that's certainly helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we spoke earlier prior to this meeting, because we saw that on the agenda, we're like, we should circle back again because it had been a few weeks. We're definitely going to start regularly meeting again and sort of getting something together for you all to take a look at. I've been since the union has been shuttered, this whole time.
Right.
It's very odd. I go to bed a lot earlier. It's weird. My whole life has been staying up till 3 a.m. at the union. I mean, I don't remember the last time I went to bed last night at 7. How about that? It's great. Sorry. But anyways, I've on Thursdays weekly, I meet with the National Independent Venue Association to try to help connect shuttered venues with this Save Our Stages money. And one thing that I kind of wanted to wait till after tomorrow, because I'm under the understanding, this kind of goes back to Arts West a little bit, that that Save Our Stages bill that has passed could possibly, I think that it covers arts venues that are connected to municipalities. Like they wouldn't be excluded potentially from that. And so I'm going to be meeting with them tomorrow. And I was going to ask specifically if any of the people in the Ohio chapter, it's a national group, but I meet with the Ohio reps. I'm kind of overseeing Southern Ohio, everything that's not, scooped out from Cincinnati, across all the glamorous cities below Columbus. That's what I'm doing. But I wanted to ask about that. Also, I would like to kind of put the feelers out because a lot of those folks who run, long-standing venues like the Grog Shop in Beachland in Columbus, in Cleveland, and other places that are starting to do stuff, what the general feeling is and how they're approaching it, what language they're using, and, to test the waters and things, because I think that's a big part of it too. So I think we're going to get together Saturday, right, Kelly? Like talk on Saturday, and we'll keep good notes and we'll report back at the next meeting for sure. I'm sorry to talk so much, you guys. I was saving it all up for that.
You're
right?
fine. You're fine.
Thanks.
I think Andrew had something to say at one point. He unmuted.
Yeah, I do that a lot. Like I'll unmute and then remute and then unmute again. And then no, I don't want to say anything.
It's a game that you play.
Right. But I did want to mention that legislatively, I put together kind of a docket of potential events for the summer and fall. And that's moving through council. And it provides a lot more leeway this year for events. Let's say we have better, a better understanding of things as we move into late spring and we want to get things moving. We can change dates. We can adjust streets, spread things out more potentially if necessary. So we're trying to provide, as many outlets as possible to be able to host things responsibly and safely. If organizations or groups are ready to do that, we don't want to stand in the way legislatively for being able to host, things happening in the uptown area. So I just wanted to mention that the Arts and Music Festival was included in that packet. So it's one less hurdle to think about, like, oh, well, now we've got to send this whole proposal to city council. They've got to, you already did the hard work before of, a lot of those logistics. It's mostly we're plugging that in saying, what the Arts and Music Festival looks like, who's involved, if we're going to change things, we're able to do that administratively and not have to go back and, amend the ordinance necessarily and all of that. So trying to provide that for all of you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Great.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Andrew, you did say that there is a budget line for it in the 21 budget.
Yes, it was appropriated with the 21 budget. Again, it's not necessarily specifically earmarked as Arts and Music Festival, but when we wrote that in, the line was, the intent was that it would be used for that purpose. It doesn't necessarily have to be. If it cancels for whatever reason or something else comes up, there's potential to reappropriate that for something else.
Great.
Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, I don't know how completely relevant it is, but when it was brought up before about the money, because we didn't have the fest before, I distinctly remember being in a meeting and we said, hey, we're going to put that money over to the, wasn't it the RAPS? Or there was another project?
So
does somebody remember? I just wanted to, for clarity, since we brought it up, if anyone is wondering where things go.
Oh, we did. We did it to produce the wraps around the boxes.
Right.
Thank you, Scott.
that was the honorariums. We were
Yes.
Yep.
The mayor had thought about how we could make that happen, because we didn't have any additional
Right.
at the end of the year. And then we looked at that chunk and said, we didn't use this. We could, put that toward that piece. But
that worked out great.
Installation piece, we put an appropriation in for 2021. So we can proceed with getting those installed.
Awesome. Good discussion about that. I'm looking forward to seeing if that will actually happen. If not, we'll look forward to it next year and hope that everything's...
It'll definitely happen next year.
So are there any announcements or other business that people need to discuss in the next minute or so? Carol
Alt will be ready with Keith Weil for the next meeting with a sketch for the Carpenter Street mural. And February 15th, the council will be considering the extension of the Poet Laureate contract.
Oh, terrific.
Great. Thanks, Carol. I wanted to let everybody know, if you are not Facebook friends with Arts West, that they are having a prints, plants, and pots sale this weekend. They do highly recommend that you email Emily Beveridge, the program specialist, to kind of get an appointment to go in. Because of COVID, they are limiting the number of people in the facility to 7 shoppers at a time. So make it easy on yourself and contact Emily. And while you're there, you can also peruse the For the Love of Athens photo contest gallery show that gets put up on Friday. So if you're there this weekend, you'll be able to see that as well. And I believe it moves to the community center after March 26th, when it ends in Arts West, because the community center does have a gallery space now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
So just FYI, Arts West is doing things, and I personally plan on going to the sale this weekend. So, any other business items, or not business items, but announcements that need to be brought up before we adjourn? Nope. Can I get a move to adjourn? Can I get a second? It looks like I'm going to say Kelly this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All opposed, anybody?